In our last story, we saw the completion of the tabernacle, a dwelling place for God among his people. The cloud of his glory descended, filling the tent so completely that not even Moses could enter. Now, from that very tabernacle, God speaks again. He is about to lay down the path for how a sinful people can approach a holy God, how they can live in his presence, and be set apart for him alone. The Lord called to Moses from the tent of meeting, giving him instructions for the Israelites. If anyone wished to bring an offering, they were to bring it from their own herd or flock. For a burnt offering, a voluntary act of worship to make atonement, it was to be a male animal without any blemish. The person bringing the offering would lay his hand on the animal's head, a symbolic act of transfer, before it was killed. The priests, Aaron's sons, would then take the blood and sprinkle it on the altar. The animal would be prepared, its parts washed, and then burned completely on the altar. Whether a bull, a sheep, a goat, or even a bird like a turtle dove or pigeon for those who couldn't afford more, the smoke would rise as a sweet and pleasing aroma to the Lord. Then there was the grain offering. This was an offering of fine flour, oil, and frankincense. A portion, a memorial, was burned on the altar, while the rest was given to Aaron and his sons as their food, a most holy portion. These offerings were to be made without leaven or honey, but always seasoned with the salt of the covenant. The peace offering was a celebration of fellowship with God. A male or female animal without blemish could be brought. Again, the person would lay their hand on its head, then the blood would be sprinkled on the altar. The fat portions were burned as a special offering to the Lord, for all fat belongs to him. This was to be a perpetual rule. The people were never to eat the fat or the blood. The meat from this offering was to be eaten by the offerer and the priests, a shared meal in God's presence. But what about sins committed unintentionally, when someone broke a command without realizing it? God provided a way back. If it was the high priest who sinned, he was to offer a young bull. If the entire community of Israel sinned, they too were to bring a bull. If a leader sinned, he was to bring a male goat. And if one of the common people sinned, they were to bring a female goat or a lamb. In each case, the laying on of hands and the application of blood would make atonement, and they would be forgiven. The laws covered specific trespasses as well, failing to testify, touching an unclean thing, or making a rash oath. A person guilty of these was to confess their sin and bring an offering. If they couldn't afford a lamb, 2 turtle doves would suffice. And if not even that, then a measure of fine flour. For sins against the Lord's holy things or for deceiving a neighbor, a guilty party had to not only bring a ram for a trespass offering, but also make full restitution, adding a fifth of the value to what they restored. God then commanded Aaron and his sons concerning their duties. The fire on the altar of burnt offering was to be kept burning continuously. It must never go out. Every morning, the priest, dressed in his linen garments, would clear the ashes and lay new wood, keeping the flame alive for the daily sacrifices. Then came the day to formally consecrate Aaron and his sons for their holy service. In front of the entire assembly gathered at the door of the tabernacle, Moses washed Aaron and his sons with water. He clothed Aaron in the sacred garments, the coat, the robe, the ephod, and the breastplate holding the Urim and Thummim. He placed the turban with the golden plate, the holy crown, upon his head. Then Moses took the anointing oil and consecrated the tabernacle and everything in it. He poured the oil on Aaron's head, anointing him and setting him apart. They offered a sin offering, a burnt offering, and then the special ram of consecration. Moses took some of its blood and touched it to the tip of Aaron's right ear, the thumb of his right hand, and the big toe of his right foot, a symbol that his hearing, his work, and his walk were all dedicated to God. He did the same for Aaron's sons. For 7 days they were to remain at the tabernacle, completing their consecration. On the 8th day, the newly consecrated priesthood began its work. Aaron offered sacrifices for his own sins, and then for the sins of the people. He lifted his hands and blessed them. As Moses and Aaron came out from the tabernacle, the glory of the Lord appeared to all the people, and fire shot out from the presence of the Lord and consumed the offering on the altar. When the people saw it, they shouted for joy and fell on their faces. But this powerful moment was followed by a terrible tragedy. Aaron's 2 eldest sons, Nadab and Abihu, in a moment of profound carelessness or arrogance, took their own censers, put their own fire in them, and offered it before the Lord. It was an unauthorized, strange fire, something God had not commanded, and fire came out from the Lord and devoured them. They died right there before the Lord. Moses turned to a stunned and silent Aaron and said, "This is what the Lord meant when he said, 'Among those who approach me, I will be proved holy.'" A heavy grief fell over the camp, but Moses commanded Aaron and his surviving sons, Eleazar and Ithamar, not to show the traditional signs of mourning. Their duties as priests, consecrated with God's anointing oil, came first. And from that day forward, a new rule was given. The priests were not to drink wine or strong drink when they entered the tabernacle, so they could always distinguish between the holy and the unholy, the clean and the unclean. This distinction between clean and unclean was not just for the priests, it was for all of Israel. God gave them laws about what they could and could not eat. Animals that had a divided hoof and chewed the cud were clean, but creatures like the camel, the pig, and the rabbit were unclean. From the water, they could eat anything with fins and scales. Birds of prey and scavengers were an abomination. Most creeping things were also forbidden. These laws were not arbitrary. They were a daily, tangible reminder to the people. "For I am the Lord your God," he said. "Consecrate yourselves and be holy, because I am holy." A laws of purity extended to every part of life. A woman who gave birth was considered unclean for a period of time and was to bring an offering for her purification. And then, God laid out extensive laws for identifying and dealing with leprosy. Whether a suspicious spot on the skin, a patch of mold in a garment, or mildew on the walls of a house, the priests were taught to inspect it carefully. A person diagnosed with leprosy was to live outside the camp, crying out, "Unclean, unclean," to warn others away. Contaminated garments were to be burned. A house with persistent mildew was to be torn down. These detailed instructions, covering even the intricate rituals for cleansing a person or a house that had been healed, all served one purpose: to teach the people the difference between clean and unclean, and to show them how to live as a holy people in the presence of a holy God.